Hello and welcome back to this Library of Ruina series. In this video, we'll be taking on the final phase of the Keter Realization, Remorse. We're so close to the end, so let's not waste any more time. For decks, I brought two purple tier stances. We'll be starting with the guard stance, which is a singleton build with a slight focus on slash pages. We also have slash stance with 3 snake slit, 3 will of the city, and 3 ever spinning gear wheel. For passives, she has Myongist, health hauler, puffy broom, and internal combustion engine. Olivier is another singleton deck with Identify Weak Point, and for passives he brought threefold Tenacity, Fervor, and Double Hauler. Eileen brought a smoke deck with 3 Vapor instead of Deep Dragger Ever Spinning Gear Wheel, and the rest being fairly standard. Her passives were Fervor, Puppet Strings, and Firm as a Great Mountain. Finally, Elena brought a singleton deck with Library Goal and Identify Weak Point with Finishing Touch, Locked Potential, and Double Hauler for passives. Angela will also get 2 new ego pages. The Eye, Facing the Fear, Breaking the Cycle, mirrors Apocalypse, being a 5-cost mass summation, rolling 20 to 25 blunt, gaining 8 power on use if Angela's at 50% HP or lower, and dealing 50% more damage against turrets under half HP. The Eye, Embracing the Past, Building the Future, mirrors Penitence, being a 5-cost mass individual, rolling 8 to 16 and recovering 15 HP and stagger to all allies on use. These pages aren't necessary for the strategy, but it'd be good to use them in any other pages you haven't used yet while you're in the more gentle section. We will be making use of the Will to Stand Up Straight and the Courage to Protect here. To start, Remorse has 400 HP, 400 stagger, is ineffective to all stagger damage, and has 1 passive, which makes the battle go to the next phase when all other enemies are defeated. Remorse won't act and isn't targetable, so let's set her aside for the rest of this section. There will be 2 nails and 2 hammers. The nails have 150 HP, 120 stagger, are slash stagger and blunt injured, pierce ineffective, and have 3 passives. Nail makes them fully restore light every scene. Guilt makes their dice gain power equal to the page's light cost, and a gap in the mind makes their dice inflict cost down to the page with the highest cost in the target's hand on hit. Cost down will make the page cost 1 less for each instance of cost down. They have 4 pages that they'll be using. Nails In is a 3-cost rolling 5 to 9, 4 to 8 pierce, both inflicting 2 nails on hit, and its cost is lowered by 1 after losing a clash against a page with a higher cost once per page. Nails makes the character take X more damage from hammers, and the character loses 1 nail at the end of each scene. This page isn't too threatening to your Myongastar's display of affection, and you can also just tank it with a block on 1. Stout Spike is a 3-cost rolling 5 to 8 evade, 6 to 10 pierce, with the pierce inflicting 2 nails on hit next scene, as well as raising the cost of a random page in the user's hand by 1 on hit. It has a 2 to 5 pierce counter that inflicts 1 nail next scene, and its cost is lowered by 1 after losing a clash against a page with a higher cost once per page. For this page, you should use a bomb with a defensive on 1 to break the evade die. Digging Nails is a 3-cost, rolling 4 to 8, 3 to 7, 3 to 6 pierce, all inflicting 1 nails next scene on hit, and it has the same cost lowering text as the other pages. This page can be beaten with your purple tier's 3-cost bombs, Ever Spinning Gear Wheel, True Triumph Formation, or Myongist die, but honestly redirecting it to a character with pierce resistance isn't bad because it'll give you 3 cost downs. Finally, a Cracked Heart is a 3-cost that rolls 6 to 8 evade, 4 to 7, 4 to 7 pierce, with the first 2 dice boosting the next die's max value by 2, and the last die increasing the cost of a page in the user's hand that costs 2 or less by 1. It also has the same cost lowering text. This page can be mitigated with an Exposed Weakness, Blind Faith, or Myongist die, as well as being tanked. The hammers have 150 HP, 100 stagger, are slash stagger and pierce injured, blunt and effective, and have 2 passives. Hammer fully restores their light on odd number scenes, and a Crack in the Minds is similar to a Gap in the Mind, except inflicting cost up instead of cost down. Their deck consists of 5 pages. Slam is a 1-cost, rolling 6 to 8 block, 6 to 8 blunt, with the blunt lowering the max value of the opponent's next die by 3, and the blunt lowering the cost of a page in the user's hand whose cost is 3 or higher by 1. The cost of the page is raised by 1 after losing a clash against a page with a lower cost, and it has a 4 to 8 block counter. This page should get clashed into by any 3-cost bomb, Display of Affection, or Token of Friendship. Collapsing Heart is a 0-cost, rolling 8 to 8 blunt that deals 3 stagger damage on hit. It has a 4 to 8 block counter, and on use, it'll get reused on a random enemy for every remaining point of light the user has. The Hammer will cast this every other scene, so what you can do is line up mass attacks to beat this page, which will make it never get cast and never get reused. I like to start with the Courage to Protect first and the Will to Stand Up Straight second, but you can use any mass summation, including Elena's Blood Spreading. If you can't line it up or don't have the light, you'll end up taking a fairly large amount of damage, but it's not unmanageable. Splitting Heart is similar to Collapsing Heart, but rolls 12 to 12 and gains power equal to the remaining light. Additionally, on hit, it deals bonus dagger damage equal to 3 times the target's nail and it has a 4 to 8 block counter. It's the same deal here, use a mass submission to make sure it never gets cast. Break rolls 8 to 15 blunt, 4 to 8 block, with the blunt destroying the target's next die on Clash Win, and it has the same cost raise text as the other hammer pages. This page should just get mitigated with Graze the Grass or Will of the City whenever you see it. Finally, Rend is a 2 cost rolling 4 to 8, 4 to 7, 3 to 8 blunt, with the first die boosting the next die's max value by 3 on Clash Win, the second die destroying the opponent's next die on Clash Win, and the third die dealing 3 stagger damage on hit. It has the same cost raising text as the other hammer pages. This page can be beaten by your 2 or 3 costs as well as Token of Friendship. Generally, you're going to want to focus down the hammers as they raise the cost of pages while the nails reduce the cost of them. Use your mass attacks on the Collapsing Heart scenes and you should be able to take the hammers down in 2 or 3 scenes. Once you kill the hammers, the overall damage output of the fight gets lowered a lot, so you should play a bit more defensively to make sure you can use all the mass attacks you didn't use before. On the scene before you kill the last enemy, make sure your purple tier has plenty of pages in hand, close to full light, and that you've at least used all of Angela's mass attack ego pages. This will all be very important soon. Once the hammers and nails are defeated, Remorse will activate, gaining new passives. She'll have Shimmering, Status Immunity, which makes her take no damage from status ailments, Grin, which makes her immune to immobilization, and Leer, which makes it so that when hit, the incoming damage gets reduced by the cost of the guilt in the attacker's hand or deck. Guilt is a page that gets added to all your librarian's hands, which is a 9 cost with a single 1-to-1 evade. It exhausts on use, and its cost is reduced by 1 whenever an enemy is defeated, but if it's still in your hand or deck after 9 scenes, the character dies. As a reminder, she has 400 HP, 400 stagger, and is ineffective to all stagger damage. She'll be casting 2 pages. Lair of Anxiety is a ranged page rolling 6 to 8, 6 to 8 pierce, both inflicting 1 paralysis next scene on hit. It has a pierce counter that deals 3 stagger damage on hit, a 3-day evade counter that inflicts 1 fragile to a random enemy next scene on Clash Win, and, on use, it inflicts nullify power and anxiety next scene. Anxiety is a status that power nulls the afflicted character and all enemies they clash into, but makes them deal 1 or 2 extra damage with attacks, and if the character fails to deal any damage with offensive dice, they take 15 stagger damage. This page is fairly easy to beat, but you should make sure you don't clash into it with your purple tier. Leer of Reproach is another ranged page rolling 5 to 9 pierce, 3 to 8 evade, 4 to 8 pierce, with the pierces inflicting 1 fragile next scene on hit, and the evade recovering 3 stagger resist to a random ally on Clash Win. It also has a 3 to 7 evade counter with the same text, and on use, it inflicts nullify power and self-reproach next scene. Self-reproach is a status that power nulls the afflicted character and all enemies they clash into, but makes them take 1 or 2 less stagger damage from attacks, and if the character doesn't take any damage, they take 15 stagger damage. Again, this page is easy to beat, but make sure it doesn't go onto your purple tier. Finally, Leer of Fright is a ranged page rolling 5 to 10, 3 to 8, 3 to 7 pierce, with the 1 lowering the opponent's next die's max value by 2, and the 2 and 3 inflicting 1 bind on hit next scene. It has a 3-day evade counter that gives 1 protection to a random ally next scene on Clash Win, and, on use, it inflicts nullify power and fright next scene. Fright is a status that power nulls the afflicted character and all enemies they clash into, but makes them deal 1 or 2 extra stagger damage on a deflect, and if the character fails to deal any deflect damage, they take 15 stagger damage. So theoretically, Remorse should be casting 2 of these pages each scene, but I've never had it cast Leer of Fright, so maybe I'm going crazy. In any case, it's the same deal as the other 2 pages, redirected away from your purple tier with basically anything. There will also be 2 Whispering Instincts and 2 Residual Desires. They all have 130 HP, 80 stagger, are injured to all damage, and ineffective to all stagger damage. They also share 2 passives, Shimmering and Black Feathers, which makes them take half damage from status ailments. The Whispering Instincts have Crushing Instincts, which gives their dice power equal to the current cost of the guild that the target has, and Residual Desire has Blossoming Desires, which makes it so that when hit, its dice gain 10 power next scene. Because of this, I'd highly recommend against having pages with offensive counter dice. The Crushing Instincts have 2 pages that are counter only. It's too good to give up, no? Rolls 5 to 8, 4 to 7, 4 to 6 block counter, with the first die lowering the opponent's next die's max value by 1 on Clash Win, the second lowering the cost of the opponent's guilt by 1 on Clash Lose, and the third giving 2 protection on Clash Win. Let's Be Free rolls 5 to 8, 4 to 6 slash counter, 4 to 6 block counter, with the first die boosting the next die's max value by 3, the second lowering the cost of the opponent's guilt by 1 on Clash Lose, and the third inflicting 1 paralysis next scene on Clash Win. For this strategy, you're going to be ignoring this enemy entirely. The Residual Desire has 5 cards. Listen to Your Heart rolls 8-8 blunt, 6-6 slash, with the blunt destroying the opponent's next die on clash win, and the slash lowering the cost of the opponent's guild by 1 on hit. It also has a 4-8 block counter that inflicts 1 paralysis next scene on clash win. Just Be Honest rolls 5-8, 4-8, 4-8 blunt, all dealing 6 dagger damage on hit. Don't Neglect Your Desires rolls 8-13 blunt, which increases the cost of the target's guild by 2 on clash win. The damage increases by half the cost of the guild the target has, and it has a 4-8 block counter that gives 1 strength next scene on clash win. Don't Suppress Your Heart rolls 6-8, 5-7 block, 4-8 slash. The block dice lower the opponent's next die's max value by 2, and the slash lowers the cost of the opponent's guild by 1 on clash lose. It also has a 4-8 block counter that inflicts 1 paralysis next scene on clash win. Finally, I Don't Wanna Let Go rolls 7-10, 6-6, 6-6, 6-6 blunt, with the first blunt destroying all of the clash loser's dice, and the other 3 blunts inflicting 3 bleed next scene on hit. The damage also increases by half of the cost of the target's guild. Again, we're going to be ignoring this enemy 99% of the time, but having hanging defensive or counter dice will help lower the incoming damage. The one time you'd want to actively send pages at this enemy is if either your purple tier is going to get staggered by them, or if you somehow triggered its passive and you need to redirect pages away from Angela or your purple tier. What you're going to want to do is, at the start of the phase, switch your purple tier from guard to slash stance, removing her guilt and giving her 50% extra damage. You're going to put finishing touch on Remorse and get her to 10 smoke and enjoy your triple damage output. Your purple tier should deal 1 million damage with every die, and your other librarians have pages that can break through the guild, such as True Trigon Formation or Vapor. Realistically though, you're just going to send everything at Remorse because clashing into the other enemies is not advised. Once you get Remorse to 1 HP, you'll get a nice scripted event, and as long as you used all of your ego, you'll win. In the next video, we'll be taking on the next reception, which is the second last battle in the game. I'll see you soon, and as always, thank you for watching.